Welcome to All the Right Friends with Scott Austin. I am Scott Austin, and these are my friends, Bigelf.
How's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
Good.
Let's talk about the international story here. You guys obviously have created a bit of a cult following overseas. How did that all start? And I know, Ace, we'll talk to you about how you joined the band, because that was actually part of how you got involved. But how did that sales story begin?
Well, we'd done a licensing of our first album in Scandinavia, and it became a bit of a cult phenomena. And there's a Swedish paper, which is sort of like the New York Times of Sweden, called the Aftonbladet, and we got a 5-star. And if you get a 5-star, which is it's almost impossible, you get I'm a 5-star shirt, like a big thing. We of course never got shirts. I don't know why, but they said you got to come over here and play and do this thing, and it seemed so far away back then. But once we shipped the gear and the Mellotrons and the orange amplifiers over there, it pretty much didn't stop for like 4 years. So we went over in like 2000, licensing in '97, went over in 2000. We're in a little bit of a transition with members at the time, a little bit of a dark era for Bigelf with the Money Machine album. And met Ace and Duffy, and they sort of climbed aboard, and really that's when things started to kind of change in a bigger way for Bigelf. And Scandinavia was incredibly good to us over those years. They're amazing people, and the culture is really, I miss it a lot because we haven't been in a few years. So looking forward to get back over there. But they just have really, I don't know, they're kind of hip on things. You know, they were the first to get into Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, the Yardbirds, early Yardbirds, Deep Purple, and you always see all those YouTube clips, and you know, well, now it's on YouTube, but we used to collect, you know, video of all this stuff, and it's always from Scandinavia. That's the funny thing. So I guess I wasn't surprised when we were doing well over there, because I thought, well, this is kind of like a little bit of a birthplace of prog rock in a way, and of course there's Vikings over there
And IKEA. Isn't that where IKEA emanated?
IKEA is in
one
Sweden.
of the greatest stores in the history of mankind.
IKEA is...
Plug IKEA, sponsorship, bring it.
Huge. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about, you know, your background is really interesting, and I know you come from that kind of Laurel Canyon, Nichols Canyon, you know, there's these canyon vibes
canyons,
that happen here in LA. Talk a little bit about that and how that affected you becoming a musician.
I grew up in Laurel Canyon. I went to school in Laurel Canyon at Wonderland Avenue School. And I was recently looking at Rolling Stone because they had this big article about the resurgence of the canyon and the music in the canyon, and I was like, wow, I wasn't aware that there was a resurgence, because I don't really know if there is. I just think it's nostalgia and people reaching back to the Zappa Treehouse corner at Lookout in Laurel and reminiscing when a time was really kick-ass, you know, because music is so poor right now. But I mean, I remember memories of the John Holmes murders. I mean, they kept us home from school that week. That was just heavy shit. That was just down the street, and it was a weird, cool time. But I mean, music. You know, it was a bunch of hippie white kids. You know, just feeling free, listening to music, and just it was a good era back then in the canyon. I still, fortunately, am able to live in Laurel Canyon, so I kind of never really left, in and out. Good place.
I listened to this record, and there's so many different sounds going on. It's psychedelic for a second, and then it's progressive for a second. Those influences, who influenced you over the years? I mean, I could guess based on what I'm getting from it, but you know, I hear obviously there's Ozzy in there, and I was telling you before the interview, there's even some Queen to my ears, but maybe I'm totally off. I don't know.
No, lots of Queen. I mean, Queen's something that's been bubbling under for a while in the band. I think Queen is always an influence. It just seemed to kind of come out on this record. The record is it's grandiose. It has a bombastic feel. I don't think I've read one review of this record that doesn't say bombastic, and that's certainly something that's just lacking today. You know, music just really, it just sucks today. There's just nothing that has any kind of truth or passion or vitality. It just seems to be really at the lowest point ever, which is really sad. But for us, it's taking what the music that's in our heads and you know, Ace brings a lot of. When he joined the band, we were really able to transcend into. Of course, everyone in the band. I met the drummer, Froth, in Eugene through a Mellotron transaction, which is a tape-based early sampling keyboard from the '60s, most notably for Strawberry Fields. For people who don't know, but I mean, Pink Floyd was. I think that's all we talked about the first night that we actually met each other, and we were listening to a quadraphonic version of "Wish You Were Here." And then I thought, I got to get this guy in Bigelf because we're just like brothers from another mother. But Ace really brought out a lot of Pink Floyd because he comes from like a blues idiom, and that was able really for us to transcend into that. It's that weird psychedelic blues genre, jazz blues really.
Yeah, I would go with jazz blues.
Blues jazz. Smile type thing, but no, I mean,
None more black.
None more black. No, but today it could be no more black between us. Actually, what's the deal? No, I mean, it's just a soup, you know, a lot of influences.
Ace, you are the quintessential axe man. You're about town. Everyone's talking about your licks. Let's talk about your playing. How did you get inspired, and how did you come to join the band?
First thing, you know, it's a usual story. I was 10 years old, saw Kiss on TV. You know, that's where it all started.
Ace Frehley.
Ace Frehley. And Paul Stanley. No, Ace. So, you know, started buying records and, you know, became interested. And that's the way it works. And me and Duffy, the bass player who's also Finnish, we used to be in this band called 515 and shared a record label with the Elves, and found out about them that way, and we actually toured together. So, you know, every night I was there by the side of the stage looking like, this rocks.
Yeah.
It would be great to be a part of it someday. It took a couple of years, but eventually we got there. We have a Finnish invasion going.
He's
here.
far too modest. He used to play, and we used to come out from after our set to see him play with the guitar behind his back, and we'd say, "We gotta get that guy in the band."
Yeah,
and he's too modest. Guitar god. Revisiting.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, revisiting the guitar god.
Right.
What's your favorite Star Wars movie?
Oh, boy. Well, it was definitely the first one. If somebody thought I was actually meaning the Phantom Menace, then we would be in really. Have you ever seen the Phantom Edit?
No.
The Phantom Edit is the Phantom Menace with Jar Jar edited out. So it's worth.
Is it actually good?
Well, no, but it's you know, I mean, for me, it was such a shame because Liam Neeson was just so kick-ass for me. Like I thought as a Jedi, that was really like a step forward in the world of Star Wars and George Lucas. But you know, Empire I think is kind of I treat Empire as kind of like Godfather too. It's a really amazing, twisted. You know, they really get dark, and they, you know, it's unconventional. They leave you hanging at the end, which is just not very George Lucas. They leave you hanging. Han, but he goes away. You know, what can be said?
All the right friends with Scott Austin, my friends, Bigelf, Damon, and Ace. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Good luck on the road. I'll come see you.
It was a pleasure.